Action's going to be on Fabrice, our Frenchman. He's got ace-5 of diamonds.
He's going to play yet another pot. He limps in here.
Nam Lee with queen-jack, calling as well.
He comes in the pot also.
I'm not coming.
Out goes Danny Smith. David Williams looks down at 6-9 on the button. He opts to lay his hand down.
Chad Brown.
And he's got 2 fours, a small pair. He calls out of the small blind. Ravi in the big blind says, give us a flop. So here we go, 4-way action.
How exciting.
Our dealer, Elaine, turns up the flop. Jack 6-3.
Good for Nam Lee. He's picked up top pair.
Chad checks his 2 fours. Ravi checks his 2 sixes.
I didn't realize Chad was in here.
And Fabrice with just ace high.
He's going to bet 22,000.
He's betting the baloney.
Now let's see what Nam Lee's going to do with his top pair.
With a nice kicker, queen kicker.
Is he going to call or is he going to re-raise?
Got a phony on your right, and he just calls it very gently. Chad going out. And Ravi with a pair of sixes, a piece of that. He's going to call, so we still have 3-way action.
You always flop something?
Yeah, a little surprised you call with second pair with 2 betters in the pot, but Ravi now has a flush draw to go along with his 2 sixes. He checks. And Fabrice checks.
And now it's on the man that has a legitimate hand, the pair of jacks, and he's finally betting.
Well, you have to think 2 jacks with a queen are the best hand here after both opponents check.
$47,000. Now Ravi, the local here from San Jose, with the 4 flush and the pair. Yeah, he's going to stick around.
Yep, he's going to make the call here. Now, what is Fabrice thinking about? He's got none of this. Well, he saw nobody raised him on the flop when he bet. Ravi is checked and called here. Then put him on that big a hand probably. What is he going to do here with ace-5? What he's wondering is if he makes a raise here.
I raise.
Could he steal the pot from these guys? He is trying it.
He's going to make a move here. Look at this. Very impressive.
Folks, don't turn that dial. We are seeing some poker here.
That is a $100,000 bump. He just doesn't believe Nam's that strong. We know differently. He's pretty decent here. Top pair. Pretty good kicker.
Well, Nam faced with a tough decision here. You're always fearful that your opponent might have flopped a set. 3 threes or 3 sixes, something like that, where you're drawing dead.
I'll tell you one thing. Fabrice came into this as the short stack into this hand. He doesn't have money to gamble with here.
Well, that's why it makes it look like he has a hand even more, Vince.
That's true.
And another problem for Nam is Ravi's still in this pot, don't forget.
And Fabrice just praying for a couple laydowns, I'll tell you that much.
Well, Nam Lee wondering. This guy limped in under the gun. Could he possibly have a big pair, aces, kings, queens in this spot? Did he flop a set? Or is he just making a move here?
Oh, he gets the best hand to lay down right there.
Well, he got
Nam
the top pair to lay down. Now it's another 100,000 to Ravi. Now, Ravi doesn't think his 2 sixes are good, I'm sure.
Ravi with the 4 flush. Don't know. He's getting chips out. Is he going to make this call?
Well, he does make the call here. Fabrice is not liking that, I can promise you.
Okay, we're definitely going to get to the turn and Fabrice's very interesting decision here. First, we got to kill him a little bit. I think it just has to be done. What is he doing pre-flop, Jonathan? Yeah, why are we limping ace-5 suited? We could win the pot if we raise. Wouldn't that be great? We could also tell a better story on the flop, which really needs to be talked about also, if we had raised pre-flop and continued on the flop. Now we limped pre-flop, let it go 4 ways, whatever, we're there. Why are we betting on this flop with this hand? What's the point? Say some words. Let's hear some words.
Okay, there's no point really. It's hard to come up with any good explanation why. Honestly, the pre-flop limp, well, is not a good play. It is way more defensible than this, which makes no sense at all.
Right. But we're here. We got here.
I mean, we're betting into 3 other players on this kind of a board for no reason. We have 2 back doors and an overcard. What are we doing?
I think we can just say it's categorically bad. I think that's what we're going to do.
I'm going to do that.
We can't say that about the turn raise.
No.
Now, both of our initial reaction was this is a bad play. But we talked about it a lot on our podcast.
A lot.
And it might not be a good play, but we can't say categorically that it's bad. At the very least, it's creative.
I mean, I don't necessarily think it's bad at all. I think it might be good. And the thing that makes it kind of cool is once the play goes the way it does on the turn with the check, bet, call, Fabrice decides to make this raise to 147,000. It's really hard for anyone to have a strong hand. Nam can have a strong hand. He could slow play to set on the flop. He guess, I don't know what else he can have. It's hard for him to have two pair. Graham thinks he can sometimes have Jack 8 suited. We think there's, two combos of it. I don't think he's limping under the gun +1 with Jack 8 suited, even though they're 6-handed. Either way, there's not many combos of it, right?
There's not many.
It doesn't play in much. Besides that, what else does Nam have here that he can really call this raise with?
Right, fair enough. So we get rid of Nam a lot of the time because he does have a lot of one-pair Jack type hands that he might play this way that he's pretty obligated to fold.
When he's got Ravi behind him too, it just feels like, it's a bad spot. Even if I think you're bluffing, it's just a bad spot.
Here's the bigger problem though, and it's not Nam. The bigger problem is Ravi, because once Ravi calls Nam's bet on the turn, we have to ask ourselves as Fabrice, when we make it 100K more, of that range, how often is Ravi really folding?
Right.
And if it's not often enough, we can't make this raise.
So it comes down to, we think, first of all, we did a little bit of research, not a lot. Ravi is native to this area. Was it San Jose, right?
Yeah.
So it's possible Ravi is just a local player, not like a big-time pro or anything like that. We've certainly never heard of him or seen him before. So I think it's likely anyway. And that means maybe he's going to be stickier with a wider range on the turn once Nam just bets than a lot of other players would be here. Right?
We don't expect it to be as sticky as just having a 6 with no flush draw, though.
No.
We think theoretically you should be folding your bad jacks here if you're Ravi. Jack 10 and worse, you should probably be folding. You should be folding perfectly, actually.
Pretty much, yeah.
Is theoretically what should be happening. Now, that might not be the case. Like Jonathan said, if Ravi's an amateur, he might be calling with all of his jacks here, which then Fabrice maybe can get to fold. See, that's the next thing, though. We need to have him be calling with those hands in the first place, and then we have to have him be sticky in the right way for us.
It's
where
true.
he's sticky against Nam, but not to our raise here.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
Yeah.
That is problematic. There's no question about it. But remember, Ravi was in the big blind, so he can have truly all the jacks in a way that almost no one ever can, right?
If he calls the jacks on Nam's bet.
Right. He can have Jack 4 offsuit, though, and things like that. So he might decide to call because he's got top pair, and gosh darn it, top pair is a good hand, which a lot of amateurs might really think and not think through the whole situation. It's reasonable. And then once the raise comes in, you just think like, Jack 4 is never good enough here, and they just throw it away. It's possible.
That's possible, but that has to be what's happening, or else it's not a good raise, because other than that, what is Ravi calling Nam's bet with that we can get to fold out? If he has 6-8 and he just turned 2 pair, he's not going to fold that. 8-3, which he could have, he's in the big blind. He's not going to fold that. 6x of spades, which he has, not going to fold. Jack x of spades, not going to fold. There's a lot of hands he's not going to fold, and I think that's a problem for this race.
No question about it.
Before we get to the rest of the action, we've got to give a shout out to our sponsors, Nitrogen Sports Poker Room, who are making this video possible.
Thank you very much. We want to tell you guys, at Nitrogen, which is a Bitcoin-only poker site, you get lightning fast withdrawals. Super cool, 10 to 25 minutes.
You also can play Sit and Goes with the Poker Guys if you use the link in the description when you sign up. You can also play free rolls hosted by the Poker Guys.
Which you wouldn't get into otherwise.
Play with the Poker Guys. It'll be fun.
We'll see you there.
Back to the action.
Well, coming down to the river. Oh, and Ravi hits the flush.
Yep, the 10 of spade comes off. Ravi checks.
I check.
Look at this.
Ravi shows him the flush and is going to take down this pot.
Well, that was a really fast give up by Fabrice there, and in this situation, it was definitely the right play against Ravi's hand. We're going to get to whether or not we think it's actually the right play overall, but first we're going to talk about Ravi's play on the river.
We actually batted this around a fair amount in our podcast. Should Ravi bet or check, and why? So normally you might think, Fabrice has rep strong value. He's often going to check back because we made a flush ourselves. We got to get value from that strong value, so we should bet here.
Right, like if Fabrice had a set, this is a scare card for a set. It's one of the worst cards in the deck for a set.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to bet in order to ensure that a bet goes in. Now, there is a flip side to that. Would Fabrice bet a set if we check because he expects us to bet flushes?
Right. But then there's value if we can bet more than he would bet himself with the set. But maybe he can get away from a set if we bet, but if we check, he's going to bet his set sometimes. It's hard to know.
It's really hard to know, and he might even fold a set sometimes if we bet. I mean, we're the amateur at the table, and we just bet when the flush card came out. So that's really scary for a set if you're Fabrice, the pro sommelier over there.
The other thing is, by checking, we do give Fabrice a chance to blast off one last time. As we can see, he's very bluffy. He's very aggressive. He might lose his mind here and there.
He might.
This would be a chance for him to lose his mind one last time for a pot-sized bet. We can make an easy call with this flush.
However, as we can see, that's not Fabrice's plan here, and that means maybe in this results-oriented universe we're living in, checking was wrong. Even though Fabrice would not have called if we had bet. It's possible that since Fabrice is never betting his bluffs on the river, it seems, betting was the better play.
Right, and so then as we batted this around some more, we decided ultimately we think the optimal play here is to rep the blocker bet.
Yes.
So you bet small enough, so it looks like we as Ravi could have 6-8. We could have 2 pair, and Fabrice with his monster hand can call, but it doesn't have to cost us so much. Fabrice could still decide to make a big raise and go all in as a bluff.
Right.
We're going to call that. We've already decided. We're definitely going to call that. It actually
Fabrice.
balances our blocker bets, which is kind of nice too. But then the set may be sitting there thinking a set of 3s, let's say. Maybe sit there thinking he could have 2 pair and be making this bet. So I'm obligated
because
to
it's
call.
a blocker bet, yeah.
Right.
And to be clear, we keep giving Fabrice a set because that's basically what Fabrice is repping on the turn.
Right.
It's basically a pocket 3s, pocket 6s, or pocket 8s, what he's saying he has when he check raises the turn this way. So how to get the most value out of that. Ravi chooses wrong, it seems, but we're not 100% sure what would happen if Fabrice actually had a set.
Absolutely.
So let's get to the other decision here, which is Fabrice's give up, his instantaneous give up.
Yeah, how about that?
Is that a good idea? Should he be giving up?
Oh, it's a weird spot because when Ravi calls on the turn, there's only a few kinds of hands Ravi really should have. But remember, we were talking before about how sticky is he really? It's unclear. If he only has 1 pair of hands, this is a great card to shove on.
Yeah.
Right? Even 2 pair of hands, like 6-8. What is 6-8 supposed to do
It's
here?
probably supposed to fold.
Yeah.
So the only real thing we're worried about here should be a flush. We should be worried about the Jack X and 6X of spades, which, to be fair, there are quite a few combinations of out of the big blind. So
Yes.
Ravi has a lot of those, which makes the give up seem pretty nice. But if Ravi is the sticky guy who has Jack 10 sometimes here, then we can't be giving up once we make this play on the turn. And in order to make this play on the turn, he kind of has to be that sticky guy.
Right.
And then he just got a little extra stickier than we wanted him to. Now we have to unstick him completely. So it really comes down to Ravi's turn range.
So it seems like, though, probably Fabrice, if he's going to make this play on the turn, is probably supposed to go all in here.
Yeah.
Now, that's without some other factors, mainly
Right.
as Fabrice, maybe we see the way Ravi checks. Maybe Ravi checks at a particular speed or something like that, where we then think, oh, okay, you know what? He's not folding. Like,
Right.
he's probably got it. He checked too quickly, trying to make himself look weak. I've seen this before. I'm checking back. So if you get a read on the guy, that can inform your decision too. Fabrice checks so quickly, though, it almost seems to me like he's already decided to give up.
Like he gave up on the turn.
Which then that would make this raise not as good.
Right.
So we went through a lot of different possibilities of the kinds of hands and ranges everyone could have here. We had a lot of questionable plays, we thought, too, especially on the river. What do you guys think? Do you like the check by Ravi? Do you like the check back by Fabrice? Can you defend some of Fabrice's pre-flop and flop actions?
I hope you can try.
What do you think about the turn raise?
Yeah.
So many interesting things to talk about. Talk about them all in the comments. We'll respond to our favorite ones right up here. If there's nothing to click on, it's coming soon.
Now, there's a lot of weird bluffs out in the world, and we recently did one featuring Vicky Corin. It was a strange hand with a strange bluff, the same way that Fabrice just made a very strange bluff. If you want to check that out, click right up there.
It's really interesting. She's up against Raul Mestre there.
Yeah.
Also, check out our podcast. It's our longest podcast ever. We spent dissecting this hand. There were so many strange decisions. Well over an hour.
Yeah.
We broke an hour, people, just talking about this one hand and all the decisions. There's some jokes in there, too. Check that out if you want. It's called The Breakdown, presented by the Poker Guys. And, of course, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel.